Hello and welcome to the Top Corner podcast episode number 20. This week we have got another one of our team of the season debate episodes. Joining me as always, we have Kieren L. We've got Kieran D, who's back. Welcome, Kieran D. And we have Rowan this week. How are we all doing, boys?
I am good.
Decent.
Good.
Ready to embarrass myself with Ligue and lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
Well, it's certainly going to be an interesting one because, of course, as we said before, the topic of the day is the Ligue. And, of course, we're getting towards the end of our Team of the Season debate series. We've got one more league left to do, which is the Bundesliga. Pretty safe to say that's the one we're most excited for. If we're all being true, we've been waiting that since the start, and every single time we've had the wheel, it's decided to go, no, not a chance. And it's waited till last. So that will be next week for that one. Of course, if you are new to the channel, as always, do leave a like and a subscription. We're very, very close to 600 subscribers. I feel like we say this every single week. We are like so close from the 600 subscribers mark.
6 subscribers off.
Literally 6 subscribers. It'd be greatly appreciated. If you haven't subscribed already, leave a subscription as always. And of course, your thoughts and opinions are greatly appreciated throughout this entire show. So leave them through the comments, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching it later on in the day. Leave your comments, and of course, we will answer them through this episode and next week's as well. Of course, we've already got one person in the building. It's Benaldo. He's here. It says he forgot it's Wednesday. To be fair, I think we've all forgot what time he's like now, to be honest.
No,
it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
We say it every week. It's weird. We're all still getting used to it. And Hayley Smith says, "Hi, boys. Welcome in, Hayley. Thanks for joining us."
Hello.
So it's weird, isn't it? We're still obviously haven't got the studio. I think the studio will probably be back in September now, if we're being quite frankly real. So expect a lot more of StreamYard in the upcoming weeks, unfortunately. But hey, we keep going. We keep rolling. Chloe's asked us, how's lockdown treating you all?
Not great.
Yeah.
It's boring. Hey, no,
Yeah,
no, it's not tough. There's people doing worse things. We get to see
it's-
so.
I think everybody's got used to it now. It's just it's a case of I think everyone's just hoping to get back outside again more than anything.
I think it's just you have to find something to occupy you. That's
It's-
all.
I think the worst part is it's like the sun disappeared when outside was allowed, and now suddenly we're all trapped inside. It's like, well, summer starts now.
Yeah, no, I think it said on this March and April's been the hottest on record, which is just a bizarre coincidence, isn't it? When, you're stuck
I've been sat in
indoors.
my back garden all day. It's been
No,
lovely.
it's not too bad, isn't it? At least
Uh,
you can Yeah, you've got to make the most of it. I mean, as I said, it's been nice over these last couple of days. Benaldo says so much work these days. Hayley Smith, I'm actually Kieran Dillon's sister.
Yeah.
Welcome into the stream.
Oh,
Don't sound happy about that one, Kieran D. Chris is in. Welcome, Chris. We're all doing good. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated for everybody that has joined us today. So, of course, we have our Ligue team of the seasons to talk about. We will do that very, very shortly. I just wanted to ask you guys, there was one piece of quite big news that's come out over the last couple of days regarding a certain club called Newcastle. You might be aware of the recent takeover deal that is supposed to be going on at Newcastle, of course, over these last couple of years. The likes of Amanda Stavely, they've all been linked with moves to the club taking over that terrible owner, that's Mike Ashley. But it actually does look like things are finally now taking fruition for Newcastle to bring in some new owners. Apparently, they want to spend quite a bit of money replenishing the squad. There's no outline on whether Steve Bruce will stay or not. But I mean, I just wanted to ask what your opinions are, because you think to yourself, obviously, you look at Newcastle over the last couple of years, they've gone up and down, in the last couple of years. Obviously, if you remember, they were in the Europa League only a couple of years ago under Alan Pardew. They got the 5th place finish. And if you go even further back, you've got them, being only a couple of points off the Champions League all those years ago. Do you feel like this now might be a time for Newcastle to not necessarily go up the next level massively, but rather than being a club that's always levelled towards the relegation spot, maybe start finally pulling up towards the Wolves section of the table if they spend money?
Well, it's rumoured that the owners are richer than the other teams. I can't remember, like richer than 19 other teams. So genuinely, we could see, we've seen it with City, we could see maybe, let's say the takeover does happen, 5 years, Newcastle being Champions League positions.
I mean, it's all down to the outlay of what the owners want to do, because I guess you look. This has been some news which has been going on for a while. I mean, Chris Welch has basically, here we go again. Newcastle talk. Wow, the media are barred, aren't they? Don't get me wrong. I hope they get it. Passionate fans, but not getting carried away. And that's probably the best way of looking at it, because the amount of rumours over the last couple of years of certain people taking over that have never happened, and the fans get excited thinking Mike Ashley's gone, and then the next day he's all cancelled.
Do you remember in the summer when they thought they were going to get Mbappe?
Yeah, Mbappe 2021 was getting. Was Mbappe 2020, something like that. Hashtag Mbappe 2020 for Newcastle fans. It was.
The thing is about Newcastle, I don't know where this myth of that they don't spend money has come from, because like this summer they went out, they spent 40 million on Joelinton, they bought St Maximin, they got Fabian Schär. They've signed some good players, and if you look at their team, they should be up there, in my opinion, fighting for the Europa League.
Is it a manager problem?
They've got a good enough team for them.
Well, they broke the transfer record, isn't it is it 3 consecutive windows in a row, or was it Almiron first, then Joelinton? Yeah. But then you have got to admit, the previous biggest signing before that was Michael Owen, and that was way, way back. Yeah, so that was a big, long time to not bolster your squad, and that explains why they were hopping between the Championship and the Premier League. But I've got to admit, my favourite time with Newcastle was that Papa Cisse and Demba Ba partnership. That was outstanding, and I think they just want to try and relive the feel-good factor around Newcastle when it was there. And I think that has disappeared over the last couple of years. It's one of them. I feel they've got an owner that's outstayed his welcome by far too long now.
Yeah,
I think Ronaldo's put as well. Saint Maximin and Almiron are wasted talents at Newcastle.
I don't think they're wasted, because I could see Newcastle going. They should be up there with Everton and Wolves and stuff, because fighting for the Europa League. But they just, I don't know what it is. Like Rowan said, it might be a manager problem, but they did have Rafa Benitez.
I'm just looking at how much spent. But spent 51 million. Last thing, they bought Joelinton for 39.6, St Maximin 16.2, Emil Kraft for 4.86, and then you've also got loan deals where they're spending money. So Danny Rose, Lazaro, Bentaleb, Willems, all spending money. It's around 65.61 million, and they only made 32 million from selling.
It's very likely as well that they'll try and get some of those loan signings made permanent. I mean, the one standout of all of the loan signings so far that's probably likely to sign a permanent contract would be Jetro Willems. Of course, he got the injury just before the season went to the coronavirus period and the lockdown stage, and he's one of their kind of like the fan favourites at the club. And a lot of the fans are hoping that he comes back. And of course, as you said, Kieran, I do agree with you. The myth of Newcastle spending money, I do think's a bit of a understatement, because you look there, £50 million for a Premier League club is still massive money to be spending.
In the past 2 years, they spent 110 million.
It's a lot of money.
As well.
I think United have that same complex. I'm not going to lie. The fact they talk about how atrocious their owners in, they spend a lot of money. Let's be honest. Like, you've got the exact same complex as Newcastle do. I guess it depends on where your club stands. Like, your club is a lot better than Newcastle, so I understand why you want the biggest of biggest money being spent, because you need to compete. Whereas with Newcastle, for that period of the table they're in, the only team I can compare them to spending-wise was Villa, and look how badly that's gone.
It's similar to it's like Fulham last year. They spent all that money and they went just straight back down, didn't they?
Yeah, the one team that... Oh, go on.
The one issue as well is the problem with Mike Ashley is he's been saying for the last couple of years now he's going to leave Newcastle. I don't think it helps when you leave fans in limbo of one, who takes over, and two, how long it takes. I mean, the one problem is, once again, the takeover does include the person who was previously linked to Amanda Staveley. She was a couple of months ago trying to get the club basically hers, and the deal kind of cut off. And it's this constant worried for fans of who actually is going to be the owner, because you've got Mike Ashley on one hand saying I will go for the right amount of money, and then on the other hand somebody just come in with an offer which you'd think is quite adequate for someone like Mike Ashley, and then he rejects it, and then you're back to square one again. Well,
that is very, very, very similar to us. Hull, we've been on sale for a good couple of years now, but no one has reached the asking price. Can I swear?
Yeah, go for it.
Right, no one can reach the asking price of our knobhead owner that is valuing us at 50 million in the Championship when we've sold our best assets. And, So I understand where they're coming from, because when you're on sale for so long, which they have rumoured to be, all you want is to just get them gone. Like the moment
worry
they
as
say,
well is club debts, underlying debts as well. We only know the background of the club from players signed, money spent. We don't know if certain clubs have underlying debt issues and things like that. Because for all we know, I'd probably doubtful. Maybe they've got a little bit of debt because most clubs do. But for all we know, Mike Ashley just wants to get rid as fast as he can now because there's underlying debt issues. And I mean, obviously the whole situation around coronavirus changes everything as well in terms of projections of spending money future seasons, not just this current season. We know that the Premier League is obviously trying to extend their seasons so they can go forward. FIFA have now struggled to get the whole system of contracts extended. So realistically, as far as we're aware, if a player's contract ends on June 30th, they will be allowed to go as free agents. They don't have to stay as they can't extend contracts. There's so many underlying issues that this next set of owners, if they are going to come in, will have to sort and have to have quite a bit of financial backing ready. And I mean, it's very good when you look at it and you think to yourself, they have a lot of cash and they're supposed to be one of the highest earning owners in the league. But maybe there's underlying issues on why Mike Ashley wants to go now, as fast as he can.
Yeah, but like you said, he's been so say, oh, I'm going to leave. Would this be the best time to leave or the worst time? Like, obviously, your season's not finished yet. If he can offload this club, he won't have to worry about the sort of effect of next season where players may not be able to move. Like, because the thing is with football, we don't know what's going to happen. Like, they say the league's going to restart at the end of May, did they say?
It's conflicting reports, that's the problem.
Is it going to be worth the money for him to keep it going, or...?
I agree with, I know it's not related to this, but this guy who does an NFL thing called Mike Florio, what we're forgetting here is we're talking about all these things. The virus sets the timeline. We can't say we're coming back in May. The virus decides, no, you're not coming back in May. We can't set dates in place that we don't know we can keep to. So in terms of contracts, we just have to wait, and we kind of have to play everything by ear, I think. And in terms of this takeover, this ain't going to happen until this is all sorted. It can't, in my opinion.
It'd be very surprising if it was to happen.
It's the loan deals as well, because I know Igalo, his loan ends at the end of June, I think. So if we're not playing by then, he can just... I think Chennai have the authority to take him back, obviously, because he's contracted to them. But Newcastle have a lot of those loan players on as well.
Realistically as well, with the Igalo situation, theoretically, it would probably be better for him to go back to China, because by that point, China will probably have their games back on again. Yeah. So he'd be actually playing football. So for Shanghai Shenhua, they'll want him back because he's one of their main stars in the team. Yeah, while Man U at the same time will want to use him because they've spent the money to get him in. So it's a tough situation all in all. I think he wants to stay more than just a loan deal. Chris, he's put, I hope Newcastle get back to where they were in the 90s. They were in the title race in that famous year with Man U, obviously not title race. Team ambition should be top 6 with takeover. And Benaldo says Everton had a significant amount of purchases last summer. If I recall, I thought they would have been doing phenomenal this season, but have been subpar half the time.
Theirs was a manager problem. As much as I love Marco Silva because he almost kept us up in really bad circumstances where we had no right to stay up. But I love Marco Silva, but he just didn't fit the team. He never learns his lessons. Zonal marking does not work on corners. He will never learn. But
I've never seen Grass score a goal.
No, I don't know. But in terms of the moment they've changed back to... Oh, well, they've not changed back. They've gone to Carlo Ancelotti, who is a top-tier manager. I don't care what anyone says. He's top tier. They finally got a manager in charge that can take them to that next level. They've been gambling on young managers. Roberto Martinez didn't work. Ronald Koeman didn't work. Marco Silva hasn't worked. So they've gone to what roots of an experienced manager that is known for success throughout his career. And now I feel Everton can push on properly because they've got talented players all over the pitch.
And that's the thing, you see some of the games that they've played even before all the coronavirus things kicked off. They have had significant improvements under Ancelotti. But in the case of Newcastle, I think the other question before we move on is, do you think they would stick with Steve Bruce, or do you think they would try and move their ambitions higher and bring someone else in? Because realistically right now, there's no specific talk on whether they'd let Steve Bruce go. Obviously, it's still so early in the negotiations process for this to happen. I think the next step is the Premier League. Look at the paperwork and that. Do you think Steve Bruce would be forced to go and they bring someone else in, or do you think they'd give him a chance?
I think they'll see how much money the manager will have. Because if an experienced manager sees that Newcastle have got a big budget to spend, at the end of the day, a manager will go to a club that's got money because he can bring in the players that he wants. At the end,
that's the thing.
That could enhance him.
Can anyone think of any pretty relatively sized managers that have gone to smaller clubs who've had a takeover in recent years? I'm trying to think. Could you say like Mourinho when he went to Chelsea, just as when they were on the rise?
I think the first one was Mancini when he moved to Man City, because I know originally they had Mark Hughes when the first takeover started, and that was. I think you've got to look at it as, let's say this takeover does happen, and I'm not slagging again on Steve Bruce. He gave us many happy times at Hull, but is he the manager if Newcastle come back to Champions League, Europa League football? Is he the manager? No. Not in my opinion. I think they'll give him a year, because that was Mike Ashley's man, if you remember. That's what Newcastle fans were so angry about. They were like, why would you bring in a former Sunderland manager? It's like treason. So he was that guy. But I think they give him a year, see where he's at. If this happens, we're not saying it will, but give him a year. And I think the moment it starts to go that way, it'll be gone quicker than you can say, anything. They'll have an excuse to get rid of him.
I think he's done all right, Steve Bruce. So a lot of Newcastle fans just thought, well, we're going down, aren't we? But he's won 9 games this season, and he beat Chelsea obviously, and he's won quite a lot of big games. He was one of the only managers to Newcastle. They're one of the only teams to go to Sheffield United and win. So
and they're quite far in the FA Cup as well. They're in the next stages.
He's not done a bad job, but
I think as well, it's always a case of we're talking about now, but if the deal does get done towards when the end of the season officially is, there'll be loads of managers who potentially do get sacked, moved on, and things like that. So, Chris has obviously put Pochettino's available. Definitely not to Newcastle though. I think they could dream on that one, to be fair. But of course, as I said before, I think the Premier League, the next stage of it is the Premier League looking to the paperwork and things like that. And then we really could see potentially Newcastle finally getting taken over, and hopefully, fingers crossed, maybe St James Park finally becomes the atmosphere it used to be back in the day.
They got took over, and then they just got relegated.
Back to square one again. Well, I think they still could theoretically go down, couldn't they?
Yeah, let me check how many points they are. They are.
You have a quick check on that.
They're 8 points above Bournemouth in 18th. So,
still possible.
Still 9 games left if we get the season underway again.
I mean, Bournemouth could go on a 9-game win streak for all we know.
So
very doubtful. Very true, very true.
I want Norwich
Villa as well, actually. Still quite close towards the relegation race, I think, and West Ham as well. So
behind Newcastle.
Wow, there you go. It just shows how tight it is in the
Norwich
Premier League.
6 points behind the relegation zones.
I do remember when I think Norwich, maybe the week before we stopped, or maybe the week before that, they won on a Friday night. And no one expected them to. They thought, this is our moment to get away from everyone. And every single member of the bottom 5 won.
Yeah.
How unlucky was that? How unlucky was that?
They beat Leicester 1-0, didn't they? I remember.
That was it.
Yeah, and then it was Watford beat Liverpool, didn't they?
Every
just as bad as it could possibly get. When you think at the worst possible time, when you need the 3 points, the rest drop, Watford go and smash Liverpool.
It was
so unlucky.
Really good win for Norwich as well. You wouldn't have expected them to beat Leicester, would you?
No. And I mean, it's one of those situations where when they beat City, you needed other teams around you to drop points. And I think some of the clubs gained points then as well. So
Norwich away is not for everyone.
Tell you what, it'll be interesting if the Premier League does come back. I mean, of course, there's reports maybe about May, June time for it. But as I said, we can't tell. We can't give specific dates with the virus.
The tweet that I saw this morning was, Premier League clubs have told their players to scale back home training regimes until May the 4th. Expect to return to group training at the end of May. Cancel any plans to leave the country this summer and be ready to resume football activities on a 48-hour notice.
Right, hold on. How far away is May?
I mean, it's very possible because the Bundesliga they're starting their training sessions.
Is about 7 weeks away, Rowan, I think, or 6 weeks away.
So
it's about 6 weeks.
I don't think he'll be back.
Doesn't our original end of lockdown end like this week or something? Like, do you remember when he gave us that 3-week period? Doesn't it end
It
this
would
week?
have finished on Monday, but
Has everyone just presumed? We might as well just presume it's not.
Isn't there another press conference on Thursday? I think it's Thursday. Is it?
I think so. The original deadline was to finish Monday, so realistically, theoretically speaking, we could all go outside and be told off for no reason because it's finished. But I think they'll extend it again for another 3 weeks. So we'll kind of see how it is. I think the estimate was the idea was maybe start slowly getting things not back to fully normal, but small businesses and things like that, get them sorted out first if the plateau started dropped on the amount of deaths and things like that. But that's going into all extensive detail on the coronavirus. So we'll go on to our main topic of today, which is the League Team of the Season. We are continuing on our debate Team of the Season series. We are reaching the penultimate section of it. Of course, I said before, the Bundesliga is the most exciting section next week, but we do have to slog through the league first. No offense to anybody who does like League. It's not a bad league, as we're making it out to be. But we've all made our... Well, it's down to opinion, Kieran. can't offend League fans.
The hardest one.
Yeah, I think this was tough.
The rest of the world one was easier than this.
It was a very, very tricky one.
The rest of the world was well fun. I don't even care. Like, that was so good to do.
Yeah, I thought the rest of the world was quite a fun one. So, as you can see on the screen right now, you will be able to see that we do have the wheel all set up. I did try talking because the sound did work earlier, and now it's not. So, without further ado, of course, as always, first goes first, second, third. And going first this week is Kieren L.
Oh,
I think that's the first time Kieran's gone first.
It is. I'm glad because I know nothing about this league. I really don't.
The second one
it's all right, mate.
is me.
Oh, yes.
And the person going in third is Rowan. You're not last this week. Just to make sure there's nothing wrong with the wheel, just to make sure, we always do this. Kieran D is last this week.
Let's go, boys.
So, without further ado, I think it's finally time to get into it. I mean, Chris Welch says it's PSG team of the season. I think some people have gone very, very differently.
I was going to say, right, I'll be honest, creating this team, I tried to avoid putting as many PSG players as possible.
I also did that as well.
Because we all know they're the best team in the league, but I don't just want to see a full PSG team. And for some reason, with the league I know the least about, I finally included subs. That was a bad idea.
I tried to get subs in there.
In there, I went with Steve Mandanda because I think Rajkovic has got the most clean sheets, I think.
Yeah.
Are they joint?
12, both joint on 12.
Well, there you go. And Steve Mandanda, purely for the fact, he was a balls last year and everyone packed him because we love a bit of
disrespected.
We love Steve Mandanda. Right, fullbacks was a difficult one. It really was.
Yes, it was.
I think that was the worst position for the entire team.
I can't believe it.
The worst part is, I forgot who Wage is. I don't know who he plays for.
Now, there's two Wages. There's one for, I think, Bordeaux. There's one for Nice. There's two of them.
Is it Wage?
Are they both right backs?
I've never had a Wagyu, Raymond. I'll be honest with you.
They're both right backs as well. Oh, no, one plays for Nantes. FC Nantes.
Nantes one. It was the Nantes one.
There we go.
What is the Nantes one, was it?
Definitely.
Right.
Reasoning... Right, the thing is, I keep putting these things in on Transfer Market or who scored. They've either got the most clearances, the most interceptions, the most blocks, the highest rating per game, or something like that. So they have got reasoning. Atal hasn't played as many games, but in terms of rating per game, I do remember he's high up there. But can you classify him as I know, because he's been injured. I know.
Yeah, no, I checked. He's only played, I think it's about 40% of the games this season.
Yeah, but he's got the highest rating, but he's played less games, so that's probably why.
Which is very true. Very true.
But at least he didn't transfer away in January like Suso did. So
I put Terrell in last week for you.
It's getting tense. It's getting tense. Calm down, boys.
You haven't capitalised Maria and Igeda, and that's really bothered me.
That has bothered me as well.
Oh, I know, but hold up. I did for De Silva or Kamara. I didn't do it for Kamara, but I did it for De Silva or Lees Malu. Anyway, enough about them.
We're getting picky, boys. We're getting picky.
Oh, we are.
Left back. This one I decided to put the first name for because I knew I wouldn't remember who it was. Hassan Kamara, who again has got the highest rating for a left back.
Is he the one from Marseille? Or am I thinking?
No, that's the centre back Kamara. Not him.
Centre-back Kamara, yeah.
The reason I put his first name, that's why. Marcal, left back for Lyon.
He's got an inform.
No, sorry. Ligue, not Ligue, Lyon, and at 31, he's still starting week in, week out. And I think he's got the most interceptions or blocks or clearances. Then centre-back pairing, I've gone with Damien De Silva from Nice. Is it Nice?
I think it's Stade Rennes.
No, that's Stade Rennes. He's having a row in here.
And Abdel Hamid, who plays for Stade de Reims. I know that one because them two are kind of the surprise packages of the season, really. I think Rennes are in third, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Stade Rennes are in third and Reims are in fifth, I think.
Yeah, so they're the two surprise packages. And Rajkovic also plays for Reims, and they've got the joint most clean sheet, so I might as well include one of their centre-backs. Sub-centre-backs, I've got Marquinhos because PSG. That's literally the only reason. And I think he's now become the Thiago Silva of the two. I think he is the better of the two now. He was always thought as like the understudy, but I think he's now the main guy in Paris. And next to him is Palois, who also plays for Nantes alongside maybe Wagé. We don't know if that's the one I'm talking about.
We'll never know.
We'll never know. Any qualms with any of them? Because I'm not going to be able to fight back, so go for it.
Well, the only one I had was a towel, but that's it.
I've justified that badly.
Justified the point.
I had none of them.
Well,
I know your goalkeeper. Yeah, I had your goalkeeper.
I've got one of those 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 players. I've got one.
That's all right. You've both got it wrong. So we'll go into the midfield, and we've got Thiago Mendes at CDM because I think he's not got anywhere near the assist of Di Maria, but he's I think he's either fifth or fourth highest assist, but he's a CDM. So to do that from defensive midfield, that's quite impressive. And then I've got another Lyon player, Hassem Aouar.
I beg you to stay.
Let's get that one in.
He's absolutely brilliant in terms of he's been so good, and I think he's rumoured to be leaving, and I think he will be leaving sooner rather than later. But again, I think he's like fourth or fifth highest assists. And I've gone with Camavinga from Nice. For 17 years old, he's unbelievable.
Yeah, he is.
And he kind of burst onto the scene. Wasn't it that PSG game where they beat them?
Yeah,
I think it was. Mm-hmm. And he kind of burst onto the scene and no one knew who he was. I mean, BT Sport put a highlight of just him during that game and how good he was. He's, from what I remember, he's really good at enticing people to tackle him and like getting that ball close enough so the midfielder thinks he's got there and then just juking to get out of the way, and he gets fouled all the time, is what I remember mostly about him. So I've put him in. Substitutes, Savanier from Montpellier. I don't remember why. Jonathan Ikone from Lille, because he's up there with assists as well, an average rating per game. And Pierre Lees-Malou, he's from Nice as well, I think.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, double Nice connection.
Very nice.
Because he's up there with assists as well, I think. Oh, he's around up there.
Yes.
Any qualms, lads? Probably that I've not included maybe Marco Verratti or something like that, but I just...
Verratti should have been included.
No, Bernaldo's put Mandanda's a nice shout. He's still sticking with the idea Marseille's going to win the league.
Oh, well...
12 points.
A Marseille player?
Rowan, are you still trying to convince me that Marseille can win the league?
Yeah, 12 points. There's only 4 wins.
Got 12 points with a game in hand for PSG.
PSG have to lose.
15 points.
And Chris Welch has asked a question as well. Do you think if Aouar's going to leave, do you think he'd move to the Premier League potentially?
I'd hope so. I'd like to see him.
I've got a feeling
Where
he's
would he
going
go,
to go. I don't know why.
Liverpool. I think Arsenal.
Who would he replace at Liverpool?
Wijnaldum if he doesn't sign a new contract.
Wijnaldum's going back to Newcastle.
I'm going.
What's your attack looking like then, Kieran?
I think like everyone should really. Mbappe, Di Maria, and Ben Yedder, because Ben Yedder and Mbappe are the two top goal scorers, I think, and Di Maria's got by far the most assists.
14
and
assists.
Behind 14, yeah, you're right. And behind all them, I've gone with Neymar because I think he's got the highest average rating per game of a player. He's got over 8. He's just a moany arse. That's the problem.
He hasn't played actually that many games as well.
I think he's only
22.
I think it's 15 in the league.
Well, I'll have a look.
Neymar, you know when he's playing, he's going to be brilliant, but he's just got an attitude problem, and that's the problem since the beginning of time. And I decided to put him behind Mbappe because that's where he belongs. So we'll put next up. We've got Dembele and Osimhen, who are two young strikers who I think have really not burst onto the scene, but Osimhen definitely has kind of come out of nowhere this season. I think he's on 13 goals, I think maybe, or something like that. But in a Lille side that kind of petered out the Champions League, sadly, he was kind of one of their bigger players this season. And Moussa Dembele, because he's up there in the top goal scorer list as well. Sadly, no inclusion for Islam Soleimani. But it has to be.
Did you hear about Neymar's mum? Sorry, I know we just deferred. I just thought.
No, I heard about that one.
She's dating the 22-year-old gamer Thiago Ramos.
Yes, because there is a video of him doing a Fortnite dance, and they went, "This is who Neymar's mum's dating."
Neymar's family are certainly a weird one, but has anybody got any thoughts on the attack? Would you change anything about it?
I agree with
I am pretty sure I have got all those players that he's got in there.
There we go. I have got a very different attack.
Have you?
Very, very different. I've got a couple of plays in there, but I've got a couple of different ones in there that I feel like deserve a bit of a shout.
I was going to say, but did you put them into, like, for it to be a little different? Because there's always, like, let's be fair, Mbappe, Neymar, and Ben Yedder, and Di Maria, they're all going to be in there. But did you kind of give a few shout-outs to some lesser?
Yeah, I've got very, very different. I've got, like, a couple of plays in there in the attack, but I've got a couple of different ones that probably no one else has picked out from what I've seen.
No one's picked out Big Abdelhamid at centre-back, but, you know.
I don't even know who he is.
I did. I picked Abdelhamid out.
He's Moroccan, I think.
This is my team. He's Moroccan indeed. You are correct on that one. In terms of the goalkeeper, I've gone for the same options. Rajkovic, 12 clean sheets out of 27. He's only conceded 18 goals this season. Obviously, Stade de Reims sitting in 5th in Ligue. And one of the stats I put before, actually, since they've been promoted, they haven't dropped out of the top 8. In the last 2 or 3 years, which is crazy to think that they went from League 2 to just bounce straight up into the top 10. It's very, very rare to ever see that. I can't remember the name of the guy, but I believe he's a French manager and he's very highly touted across the league. I might be wrong on that one. That's the one. But they've been very, very good since they've come up from League 2. Very, very impressive. And Mandanda, same again, second most clean sheets in Ligue 1. He's got 11. He's only conceded 27 goals in 27 games. Of course, Marseille, surprising that they're sitting in second. I don't think anyone expected that this season. And they look very bound to get themselves a Champions League spot once everything's finished, which is crazy to think about. In terms of the centre-backs, I also went for Younis Abdelhamid. He's Moroccan. Yes. He is ridiculously good this season. He's played all 28 games for the club. He's got 3 goals, 12 clean sheets. He's only conceded 21. They've got the lowest amount of goals conceded in the league. Fun stat, lowest amount of goals conceded, the second least amount of goals scored. Ooh. Still 5th, though. So I think they've scored 26 this season, which is crazy to think. A lot of 1-0 wins they've got this season.
A bit like Cheltenham from last week. Do you remember where they conceded like the 10 least, but they'd also not scored?
They are pretty much the French Cheltenham. My other centre back I went for in terms of the top ones, I went for Thiago Silva. I could have gone for Marquinhos, but he has been playing midfield quite a bit over the last couple of seasons, so I thought I'll go Thiago Silva. 21 games played, 12 clean sheets. He's only conceded 17 in the games that he's played. PSG, of course, they're comfortable in the league, 12 points ahead of Marseille, a game in hand. It's expected for PSG to walk the league, and they've done the same as they always do. In terms of the backup centre-backs, I've gone on the left-hand side for Gabriel. You might have heard of him. He is a Brazilian centre-back from LOSC Lille, being linked to the likes of Chelsea, Everton, Arsenal. In the last couple of weeks, he's expected to leave the club in the next couple of months. He's played 24 games this season. He's got himself 1 goal, 12 clean sheets. He's only conceded 21 goals in those games played, which I think is a stunning record. Of course, lost Lille this season. Although losing quite a lot of their players, still impressive and doing well in Ligue 1. And on the right-hand side, same as you, Kieran, Damien De Silva of Stade Rennes, 25 games played, their third place this season. He's got a goal and 2 assists, 10 clean sheets, only conceded 21 goals in the process. I mean, Stade Rennes over the last couple of seasons have been really started to produce a lot of quality players and go up the ranks of Ligue 1, and it's impressive to see. And Damien De Silva being the standout centre-back there.
I tell you what, me and Josh have got the right pair of centre-backs. These two didn't include any of them.
We know it. We know it. We've gone for them. They're the ultimate pairing of Abdelhamid, Damien De Silva. They're not quick, but they're solid in defending.
I have one of Josh's and I have one of yours, Kieran.
You have Thiago Silva and Marquinhos.
No, I have Thiago Silva.
I mean, fullbacks, as I said before, is the hardest one of them all. I've gone on left back for Fetout Mawassa. He is a left back from Stade Rennes. 3 goals and 1 assist, but they've only conceded 24 goals this season in the games Mawassa's played. That's the second least in the league with PSG. He's also got 9 clean sheets. And the other right back I've gone for is Thomas Fouquet of Stade de Reims, the Belgian right back. He's got 27 games. It's a great name as well. 27 games played for Stade de Reims. No goals, 1 assist, 12 clean sheets, and 18 goals conceded. I think that's a ridiculous record for a right back.
Yeah, I was going to go with the same right back, but I thought Fouquet and put a Tal instead. So
I had to get that one in there, didn't you?
I did. I can't look at a pun and not make it.
Joke a week.
Go on.
That was shit.
Thanks.
Oh dear. We'll move on to the midfield to get past that bad joke. We'll go with Thiago Mendes. He's got 22 games this season for Lyon. Now, defensively wise, he could have been a little bit better, but he's got 6 assists, which is the 4th most in the league. I mean, to be honest, it's quite surprising because when you look at the amount of assists in the league, most players are, to be honest, I think quite shockingly low.
Yeah.
I think you've got Di Maria with the highest on 14. The next one is 7, which I think, no offence, is quite poor for the amount of games that have been played. I would have expected a couple of players to have been, at least close towards double figures.
I mean, doesn't it? Just shows the level of Ligue 1, sorry.
Not to be harsh to it, but it does in a way, to be honest. I mean, the league's been quite tight as well. I mean, you look at a lot of the clubs, there's like 6 or 7 clubs that are all spaced out between 42 and like 39, 38 points.
The gap between the attacking talent in Ligue and the midfield talent is massive.
It's humongous. It's big. I mean, it shows through the choices, I think, in the midfield.
Yeah, exactly. I think up front, it's you fleshed out with so much possible opportunity. I think in the midfield, I was finding myself clutching at straws for picks. In terms
there's a couple of picks I wanted to put in there and a couple that I didn't. So, like, for example, here I've gone for Idrissa Gueye. I put him in here because 20 games for PSG might not be the highest number, but he's got 1 goal and 1 assist in those games. He's had 10 clean sheets out of a possible 20, 50%. And in the 7 games he hasn't played, PSG have conceded 6 goals and they've lost 2 of their games. And I think since he's moved from Everton, he's been a very pivotal part of the PSG side, especially in the Champions League. There you go.
Game.
I think even at Everton, he was very... not underappreciated, but I think when PSG moved for him, I think Everton fans realised how much of a miss he would be. And I think if he was still at Everton now under Ancelotti, they would be a lot more defensively structured with him there.
Because when Everton signed Idrissa Gueye, I remember saying, wasn't he just an Aston Villa flop? or that's what I thought of him anyway. Like he wasn't. I don't remember him setting the world light at Villa, but he's very good at sitting in front of that back four and breaking things up. Like, do you know if a team's countering?
Yeah,
I'd like having Idrissa Gana in that hole, trying to stop the counter.
Well, I think PSG for quite a couple of years now have missed a midfielder that just sits and defends. I mean, Thiago Motta is probably the closest they've had to a proper CDM for quite a while. I mean, he retired a couple of years ago now. Oh, yeah. So for just a Gay to come in, I think he's helped them massively. And I mean, I know this is going like out of Ligue, but I think he's been massively helpful in the Champions League as well. And it'll be one of the reasons why they could go quite far and even win it if they keep pushing. The other midfielders I've gone for, I mean, Chris Welch has said good old Farmers League for Ligue 1.
Yeah.
I think he agrees with your point, Kieran D. I've gone for Camavinga on the left-hand side. 25 games played for third place Stade Rennes, of course. As you said before, he's only 17. He's been linked to the likes of Real Madrid. Even Stade Rennes' manager says he thinks he will go there at some point in the future. He's a quality player. 1 goal, 2 assists, 9 clean sheets. And I mean, at the age of 17, he's an unbelievable prospect for France. And their midfield is going to look very, very scary in the future. I've gone for Renato Sanchez. Now, Renato Sanchez this season, he's not played as many games as the rest. I think he's played 17. He's had 5 man-of-the-match contributions. And I know I haven't put Victor Osimhen in there, but I felt like if I had to put a Lille player in that wasn't a defender, I think Renato Sanchez would be the next best player in that side. Absolutely quality, since he moved there from Bayern. And I think Bayern will probably be mourning their loss in the sense of he could have really become a pretty good talent and that they shipped him off quite early into his career. So I think he's their loss and Lille's gain.
You look at how poor he was, specifically at Swansea.
He was terrible at Swansea.
But Swansea were horrific, to be fair.
He's one of the players where you build around him.
The one thing that I always remember about Renato Sanchez is when he tried to pass it to the advertising board him.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I always remember.
Paul Clement on the touchline going absolutely crazy. Yeah. I can remember that. I think he's really grown as a player since he's gone to Ligue 1. Really grown as a player. And I think he deserves at least a shout. Definitely, I don't know whether you'd say put him in there specifically, but to have a shout being in there is
not to crap on Ligue 1 again. It is an easy league to shine in.
Yeah, I do feel like I'm trying to think of a couple of players that maybe have flopped around football that have gone to Ligue 1 and done quite well. I mean, Memphis Depay probably is one of the newest ones that didn't do as good as people wanted him to in the Premier League and has gone to Ligue 1 and done well.
And Yedda to an extent as well.
Oh, no, I disagree.
No, I'm not saying, but he's a lot more noticed now than he was at Sevilla. That's what I'm trying to say.
He was brilliant at Sevilla. He was there.
I'm not saying that he wasn't brilliant at Sevilla, but he's come here and he's a lot better. Like he scores a lot of goals and like he's more noticed now because he shines in League 1. It's easier to shine in League 1. That's what I'm saying.
See, one of the stats I've actually got, one of the facts I've put, I'll say it now actually. Ben Yedda's got 18 goals, I think, this season in Ligue 1. He has already scored the same amount of goals this season as he did last season. He'd scored 18 at Sevilla in 9 less games. So it's crazy.
I agree where you're coming from because, to be fair, when you're a striker, it's probably easier defensive coming up against week in, week out. I get that, but I don't think he's to the level of Depay where he was bad at United.
No, I agree with that. I think
United should have kept him, in my opinion.
Me too.
Yeah, I do think they should have. I think Ben Yedda's never flopped because even before Sevilla, you look at him at Toulouse, he was incredible then. He was really the shining light of Toulouse. And obviously they've gone to shit recently. They're bottom of the league. And I think ever since they lost Ben Yedda, they've struggled massively. But I definitely wouldn't say Ben Yedda's been as much as a flop compared to Depay. But then I wouldn't even call Depay a flop anyway, to be honest. I just don't think at that time it worked for Man U with the manager, to be honest.
They were in kind of a tough spot then.
Yeah, I do think maybe now he'd probably get more of a chance than he did then, to show himself. And even if he did not do as good now, I do think he'd have still had more time compared to what it was like then. Because I guess at the end of the day, you look at Man U and you think at the time they were signing Falcao, Di Maria and players like that. If you weren't doing good, you just get shipped off and they bring another big player in. But I feel like it's changed now.
Yeah, it was similar with Di Maria. I think they should have kept hold of him as well, because he's another one where I admit he's probably rejuvenated his career specifically from United at PSG, but he was
just his hatred of him.
He was Ballon d'Or contender at Real Madrid. He was up there, arguably, having the season of his life at Real Madrid. He then moved to Man United, where it just didn't work. I can't say the reasonings, but I get where, he's another one where he was great before, had a low point, and then goes to Ligue to find himself, maybe. And that's similar to maybe Renato Sanchez.
Yeah, I'd say that's the best way of putting it, to be fair. The rest of the midfield, I've got Morgan Sanson of Marseille. He's 27 games played. Of course, Marseille second place. 5 goals and 5 assists. It's one of the highest goal contributions of any midfielder in Ligue this season. Now, he was originally going to get binned off to Newcastle in the summer because of financial fair play issues. And I generally do think Marseille will probably be very glad that they didn't bin him off. Fantastic player in real life. And I think he's got a lot to give for Marseille if they do get into the Champions League. Teji Savanier, of course, you talked about him before, from Montpellier. 19 games played this season for them. 6 goals and 2 assists, 6 clean sheets. Not the greatest amount of clean sheets, but that's not really his job. He does shift all over the place. Some games he plays as a defensive midfielder. Some games he just plays an attacker midfielder. So he's versatile, realistically speaking. I think you look at Montpellier, they're not the same team as what they used to be back in the day when they had Giroud and they were towards the top of the league. And I think if you had to pick out one standout play from the side over the last couple of years, it would be Savanier. The attack, of course, you've talked about Mbappe and Di Maria before. So obviously Mbappe, top scorer of Ligue, 20 games, 18 goals, 5 assists. Di Maria, top assists, 26 games, 8 goals, 14 assists. I'll not bang on him about them. And of course, Ben Yedder as well. 26 games, 18 goals, 4 assists. The other 3 I want to talk about a little bit more. You talked about Dembele earlier. I picked Dembele out, not for the reason of the goals more especially, but the reason of why he's got those goals. 27 games played, 16 goals, 2 assists. Now, I decided to do go really extensively and take away all of Dembele's goals. So, see basically how many points they'd have without him. They would sit 2 points above the relegation zone if you take away all of his goals and assists.
Wow.
That's how important he has been this season. 42% of Lyon's goals have been contributed by Mr. Dembele. He's that important.
He is the last stalwart left of their attacking trio, because Depay's injured.
Well, that's what I thought.
A lot was resting on him to step up, and he has done, to be fair to him. Their goals were reliant on it. They took away all their attacking threat and was left with one player. And I think he's shown up this season.
And that's the thing he had to, because it's the unfortunate case of René Adelaide getting injured. And then literally, I think it was a couple of weeks later, if that, Depay obviously picking up that ACL injury.
Weren't it the same game they both got injured, but Depay played for 2 weeks longer or something? And then there was nah, I can't play anymore. He's going to mess it up.
I don't think they thought it was as bad with Depay, so they thought, give him a couple of games, he might be able to, not necessarily shrug it off, but still play effectively with it. But as you said, a couple of games in, he couldn't play on anymore. And as I said, Dembele's been really, really crucial to the side. And then there's the other 2 players that picked out, Dennis Bouanga, or as we call him, Bouanga. So good, he'd be named twice if it was me. And Habib Diallo, he's from Metz. I'll start with Bouanga. Of course, we know Saint Etienne.
He's always to say it twice, doesn't he?
I wonder. Do you know what? I've got to the point where we say Bouanga. I just feel like that's his name now.
Yeah.
His name's Dennis. But 26 games, 10 goals and 3 assists, which I think is quality for a winger, even if it wasn't for a relegation side. But I did the same again for him. I took his goals away and his assists. They would lose 11 points. They'd sit second bottom of the league, and they would practically be relegated if Bouanga hadn't scored all those goals. So I think he's been crucial to a side that I think people weren't expecting to struggle. To be honest, they've done quite shockingly under Claude Puel. Would that come as a surprise to people seeing him at Southampton and Leicester? Probably not. But I think Saint Etienne have got a lot to do. Probably start off with sacking him, to be honest, at the end of the season and developing a squad because they've got good players. They've got Bouanga, Wabi Kazri. Last season he was storming it in Ligue 1. This season he's not done as good. So unfortunate for them, but very similar situation to the right-hand man, Habib Diallo. He's a striker from Metz, 12 goals and 3 assists. He's the player that's contributed the most goals to any side in the league. 55% of his goals are from him for his club. It's crazy. Metz take away all of his goals, would sit 19th. That's without taking away his 3 assists. I do genuinely think they'd be towards the bottom end of the table. I think they'd sit bottom if you actually took away his assists. So he's been that effective for the club, and that's why I put those 2 players in there, because I thought the contributions that they've made to their club specifically might be more crucial than somebody scoring 10 but being placed 7th. So that's my team overall. If anybody's got any objections against the side.
No.
I love Bouanga. What a great choice.
Do you know what? I eyed him out because I saw him in the top scorers list, and I thought I needed to see where Saint Etienne were, and I was like not pleasantly, but really, really surprised to see how low down they were in the league. Because you always think of them as being a team towards the like the Europa League spots.
Yeah.
And this season they've just been shambolic, very, very terrible this season. Definitely. But overall, that is my Ligue 1 side. But before we go on to the next side, I thought we'd take a quick break and we talk about The Athletic. Now, this is a great piece of coverage that's online, a website that you can use. It's got loads of content on football, combat sports, NFL, NBA, WWE, loads more content that you can get access of. They've got a world-class team of football writers. That includes the likes of Oliver Kay, Daniel Taylor, and Raphael Honigstein. They've got some great, great content. I would really recommend it. The best thing about The Athletic, there's no adverts at all, no pop-ups, none of that rubbish. It's just pure sport content. I'd really, really recommend you joining. If you do join us, it's theathletic.co.uk/sports corner. You can get yourself 50% off your annual subscription and a 7-day free trial. I would highly recommend it.
Free trial? Wow.
Honestly, I definitely would recommend it. They've had some quality content recently. They did a piece about Soccer AM, the rise and the fall of it. Fantastic quality piece. And you can even get content tailored towards your club as well, whether it be in NFL, football, or any sport you want. Quality content. Wow. Check out the link. It's in the description. theathletic.co.uk/the sports corner.
I like to think of it as a sophisticated version of like what you'd usually cover. Like if you wanted like proper journalism and proper writing that's professional and you learn knowledge about, I'd go with The Athletic. It's above all the other news outlets for me personally.
And also 50% off when you use us. Can't go wrong.
You really can't go wrong. I mean, it's 50% off the annual subscription. It's an absolute bargain right now. As I said, the link I'll keep in the description so you can access that. Would highly recommend it.
Yeah, definitely.
Highly recommend it. Definitely. I mean, if you're a Leeds fan, for example, they've got content that's catered towards you. They've got world-class football editors talking daily, even throughout the coronavirus period. So check the link out in the description, theathletic.co.uk/sports corner. I would definitely recommend it.
If you're a Leeds fan, you don't deserve this sort of content. You don't deserve the top.
Well, they'll have content for Hull as well, but I don't think it'll be as positive right now compared to Leeds. They'll be singing about promotion while yours will be singing about doomed relegation. But that's The Athletic.co.uk/sports corner. On to the next team, Rowan.
It's me. Let's go. In that I've gone
Sorry, Kieran.
He's got the joint most clean sheets, and I put him. Are you done? Are you done?
No, you did last week, so it's fine. We'll do it again to you.
Just before you say, why have you only gone with 2 subs?
Well, because I did this, so I just did just positions where I was like, I should probably. When I was going to put someone else in, I wanted to put them in. All right.
Fair enough.
Hold up, I haven't dissed anyone this podcast. There's an agenda today.
My team hasn't been on yet.
Well, get ready. All right, in there is Steve Van Dander, joint clean sheets at the top, and Marseille higher, so I put him in. Right back, I went for Thomas Fockett. Josh explained to it. I've gone Disase, I think that's how you pronounce it. Stan Reams have considered the least goals, so I went for a right back centre back partnership. Then he's played the most games for them as my left back and centre back. My left back is a right back, but for them I went for 2 Nice players. they have the best interception rate of any team. So in terms of defense, so I went for Dante, the legend of FIFA. He played one of the most games as a centre back, and Berner has played the most games as a full back, and their left back I don't think have played many games. So I think Berner and I can't remember the other guy have been switching positions and playing at left back. In my midfielders, I've gone for Idris Gana Gay. He's had, I don't want to say, like he's shined so much. Like Kieran said, he's had one of the best interception records. And I didn't want to do too many PSG players, but I felt like he deserved a shout. I went for also Cyprian as well as the other centre mid. 7 goals, 3 assists. You lot would probably put better claims towards other people, but I thought of giving him a shout at least. At Cam, I've sort of treated. I've gone for Di Maria, the most assists in the league. You can't really contest it. At the right side, Mbappe. Again, he's joint top scorer. He's really become PSG's standout player over, obviously, the left wing and Neymar. You could put Victor Osimhen in there, who also has had a good season. Again, the problem is Ben Yedder is being explained so much. Joint top goal scorer. Not really doing amazing in Sevilla. He's decent, but he's really come to the French league and sort of shone. And then I've also gone for Dembele as well, because he's stepped up when he needed to.
I like that.
Most of my players are what you've chosen. So
I looked at Disassi, but I think it was a tough choice because Disassi, of course, plays for Stade de Reims as well. And I think I kind of was at a point where I was like, am I really going to go for a full Stade de Reims defence at this rate? I just think they've been that good defensively that it was hard to not pick one or two of them out at the very, very least.
It's insane, though, because it further backs up the point that, for me, there's a massive class gap in Ligue. It's so big. Like, you look at players
it's true.
Mbappe, and then, I'm sorry, no offence, you look to the players at the level of Dante, not that he's a bad player, I'm just saying, like, the level gap is just massive.
Yeah. Does it not mean that there's a market for the clubs to get better? Because, I mean, you look at, like, Stade de Reims, for example, since they've been promoted, they've not been out of the bottom 8 since they've come up. There's a market there, I think, for smaller league clubs if they had the money and the investment to kind of be the next Monaco and go for the title. Because, I mean, even look at Monaco now, they're spending money, but nothing seems to be working. Even with the goals from Ben Yedder and Slimani, they just still haven't got enough to be towards the top end. And even with Marseille in second, they're still way too far behind.
I mean, look at Lille. I think they were one of the teams, like, they've always been around that area, but they never quite made that step to the Champions League, and they finally made it this year. Yes, it was crap and they were rubbish, but, at least they made that step up that teams thrive for, really.
I think it's just a case
Remy.
of big like Remy up top. Victor Osimhen banging in the goals.
Love it, Remy.
So, has anyone got any other thoughts on Rowan's team, or are you all quite happy with it?
I think he justified himself well.
I think there's very, very different defensive options.
I didn't think of Cyprian.
No. I don't think I think to many Nice. Wait, did I think of a Nice player?
Nice are a weird one because they're quite high up in the table, but they've conceded nearly 40 goals this season. It's one of the worst defensive records in the league.
Cyprian,
they've got the most interceptions. The defense has got one of the best interceptions and block records.
It's weird though, isn't it? Because you think with those stats they'd be higher up in terms of not goals conceded.
Do you think they're just constantly under threat of conceding more?
Probably.
Yeah.
With the players they've got in that position, they'd actually have conceded 70 at this point in the season.
See, the thing is as well is obviously they got took over at the beginning of the season, so they brought in the likes of Adam Unas, Kasper Dolber, a couple of players like that. So I think they focused too much on the attack, not enough on the defence, and that's probably where the issue is.
Yeah.
In terms of the side.
Hopefully over the years we see a slow moulding of a good team. I think the acquisition of Kasper Dolberg was good because he lost his... I remember when he first burst onto the scene, everyone thought he was the next big thing. He slowly lost his hype. So hopefully they can reignite that in the next coming year because he's had a solid season.
I think they're kind of the... I think if you look to any Ligue 1 team right now, they're probably the one team that is going for the idea that I said a second ago, where if they put cash in, they might be able to be the next club that jumps up another level and pushes towards like Champions League and Europa League spots. And maybe eventually tries pushing PSG
The
for the
only
title.
problem with that is there's always another club that is better off than St Etienne. It's not St Etienne, Nice. It's not nice to say, but there's always going to be players that will just want to move to England, Spain, Germany to further their careers. There's not a lot of players, I don't think, that would go there with the intent to project. Let's see how far we can go. It's obviously not a nice thing to say because we'd love to see that, but there's just not a lot of players these days, especially, that will do that.
I just think that's in general. I think the idea of cash-heavy clubs is probably more of a thing of the past. I mean, you look over the last decades. Anzi Makachkala in Russia were one of them. Obviously, PSG when they started building towards the beginning of the 2010s with Ibra and Thiago Silva. Shakhtar, they went on a run where they got all the Brazilians in for quite high fees. I think there's a couple of other clubs. Obviously, Chelsea back in the day as well. I think there's a lot of clubs in the past that went on the approach of if we spend loads of cash, we can kind of progress up. I mean, you still see it now to a certain extent with the likes of Fulham spending all the money and Villa and that. I guess it's more nowadays you don't see as many clubs.
I think it's one of them, from what Kieran said, like there's always going to be them players that want to play for the biggest clubs. But for every player you have that, you also have the players that only want the money. I mean, look at China. The amount of players that have left in their prime to go to China. Mm-hmm. You may see if Nice offers them enough money that instead of going to China, they'll go in their prime to maybe Nice. I know it's unlikely because China.
I guess China's a failed experiment as well now.
Oh, well, now, yeah.
Realistically, you look at 5 years ago when like Drogba had gone over there when he was, obviously he was getting towards the end of his career, but like when you got Drogba and obviously Oscar and players like that went over, I think even that to me is a failed experiment of the past.
Well, look at MLS. MLS took many exports over. Yeah, I find myself wanting to watch MLS more than a lot of other leagues, and maybe it is that American sort of feel to it. But you've also got players who went there most players went there when their career was coming to the end. Gerrard, Lampard, many others, and they have Robbie Keane went in to LA Galaxy. Like end of the career, not going to do much. Yeah, Carlos Vela went. He's absolutely shined. You're getting more on players. Martinez shining for Atlanta. Like you're getting. I think they're slowly, but they're also their American academy is great in America, and and Canada as well, and Mexico. That league they've done a good in China. I don't feel like they have a good youth upgrade.
They're developing towards it. In
I
China.
just think the approach. I think they used to try and get British heroes and try and tap into European fans, which is not what they're doing. They can't do that, I don't think. So what I think they've altered their technique is to try and not take over, but they'll go and try and create North American and South American stars like Vela, Chicharito. I mean, Joseph Martinez can get the Venezuela market. Almiron can get the Paraguayan market. They've had these players, and instead of trying to come over to Europe, because you're never going to be as big over here, it's not possible. If they try and take over, I keep saying take over. Yeah, but they try and get more fans from South America and North America coming to their games, then they can do a lot more with that rather than what they're doing now.
Not to be harsh, I'd say big name flops, to be honest. I genuinely would. Carlos Vela not being the player that he could have been in his career. Joseph Martinez, the fact he came from Juventus was just big enough already because people weren't really expecting much out of him realistically, but he came over and did well. Javier Hernandez at the end of his career, not really done much since Bayer Leverkusen. I'd have said big name flops, to be honest.
In fairness, but we rarely see new leagues being created. Like in America now, also they created the MLR a couple of years ago, and it's only now that they're having to bring in these big names to get things. So they just brought in Matteo Bastardor, and tons of other known players that play in France and England, and that's how you would have to build a league, and that's what China have done. I think America have just can build a youth system. I know rugby, they've already got academy. It has been hit by coronavirus, so I think the USA Eagles have had to either disband or postpone for a long time because they're just losing so much money. But they've got a lot of universities having all these teams where they look at the USA women's soccer team. They're the best in the world.
Yeah.
I think the men's could slowly get there, maybe in 10 years, once a lot of the academy players are going up.
look at Atalanta's training ground. That is state of the art. Like, their facility is honestly arguably better than half the stuff we have here. It's not big enough yet, and hopefully they're trying to create slowly their own talent to maybe push up. Because the USA, for me, not making the World Cup was the biggest failure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they got knocked out by Panama, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To even be not go on, sorry.
No, I was going to mention that Copper 90 did a documentary on Australia not eventually qualifying for the World Cup. And they said that once they qualified for that major tournament, the buzz of the whole soccer, football went up, so attendances were getting larger and larger. So it's probably their third most played sport in Australia, and getting into a big tournament really helps. And I think USA need to start obviously doing it after the bad World Cup qualifying.
And I mean, we'll see over the next couple of years, because the one idea, and I think this is in my opinion, the last bite of the cherry situation for them, is the idea of linking up with Ligue MX and merging the two leagues together. Potentially, I think by 2023 was the project idea, and obviously bring all the South American clubs together and have one big league instead of these separate ones, which I like the sound of the idea, because I feel like it would make things a little bit more competitive if you've got the likes of Tigres and teams like that up against these MLS sides, which they do face.
Imagine the away fans having to travel on like 8-hour flights just to get to an away game.
True, but if Russian fans can do it, then I guess there's no reason. I mean, you look at even leagues, clubs in England, when you look at the other end of the country, like Portsmouth and Plymouth and teams like that.
Our country compared to the size of America, Mexico, South America
is minimal.
Wait, when did you say that was going to happen?
I think by 2023, 2024.
Is it the 2026 World Cup we're having Canada, Mexico, and America? So maybe that's their little.
I think so.
Yeah, it is, because 2022 is Qatar. So yeah.
No, I'm just saying that that's their test in terms of if it works in a league system for them to combine America and Mexico. Maybe it won't be so bad in the World Cup, if you know what I mean.
Sorry, go on.
Isn't 2022 the one we're having in like November?
In Qatar,
that's Qatar. Yeah.
Christ,
I do think MLS should emerge. They've got not a unique idea, because all their sports have it, but the East and West Conference. Because currently they've only obviously played 2 games, but already Atlanta unbeaten, and there's no teams that are on 6 points. Whereas in the West, 3 teams are joined first with 6 points. Not joined first, but they're all on 6 points. And I think the East and West can work well to the American audience. Whereas I think if they had the Ligue MX, you would lose a lot of teams, because how many teams professional teams would they have?
It'd be a big league. League.
There's 13 in each, so that's already 26 teams. How many are in the Ligue MX?
I think it's 16, as far as I'm aware.
So how many is that? 42.
I just like the sound of it. I think it make things more competitive, because I think Ligue MX is I know it's going completely off topic from Ligue, but it's very similar to the MLS in the fact that it's tried the idea of taking over exports of clubs like players like Gignac back in his day from Marseille, Jeremy Menez when he was a reasonably big name from PSG. They tried that idea, they failed, and now they're going down a different route. And I feel like maybe just merging the leagues together, although it'd be a bit too big, exponentially speaking, I think it'd make it a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, because I think it'd make that like final little period where it's like maybe the best 4 from Mexico versus the best 4 from the USA. Not their version of the Champions League, but do you know
that could work well. The Champions
League is they'd be fighting for spots for their Champions League.
Yeah,
because both. Sorry about that, Ron. Both leagues, they fight for the same competition anyway to be in. So
why not have like a America versus Mexico like tournament in terms of like the top 2 teams who qualify from West and East, they play each other. They play each other. So the winner of the MLS plays the winner of the Liga MX, they win the North American Trophy or something. And it's just.
I mean, it's a good idea, and obviously it'd be something that it might not ever happen. It might just be an idea that's come up just because of the World Cup and things like that. But I think it'd be a good idea, and it's probably a talking point that might come up quite a bit in the next couple of years to come, in terms of whether they do it or not. But we'll go on to Kieran D. We have your team last. I think you've been waiting quite a while for yours. So without further ado, do you want to go through your Ligue team for the season?
So I was just reading the fun fact on the left-hand side.
I'm not going to lie. I was wondering how long you'd realise.
That's sly dig. That is a sly dig.
No, I wouldn't say it's a sly dig. I just think he's quite impressive that he's never finished below 5th his entire career.
Right, so in net, I went for Kieren and Rowan. He has got 11 clean sheets this season in 21 games. That's 52% of his games being clean sheets. Back up, I went for my nan in net, 28 games, 12 clean sheets. He's kind of come out of nowhere, hasn't he? Really, in terms of like his stature in the game. Like I didn't know who he was before this season, and now he looks really good. I could see him coming to the Premier League. I think in a few seasons.
Good young keeper. I was just double checking he was young.
He is young, 24, I think.
24.
Yeah.
So you can't catch me out this time.
I was checking because I wanted to say it.
I went for Moassa as well because Josh, did you know? Fun fact that Moassa is a makeshift left back. He's actually a left winger.
Yeah, no, he's been playing a very different position, and the thing is, you probably wouldn't feel like he does because he's very gifted to play left back. Do you know what? He's like what's his name? Alphonso Davies.
Yeah, like Josh said, 7 clean sheets, 3 goals, 1 assist, 21 years old. He's had 12 shots this season, with 7 of them being on target, and that for a left back, that's really good. So you can see that's the winger in him coming out to play it as such. And I've gone for Kenny Lala for literally no reason whatsoever. I couldn't think of a right back, and I didn't know who fuck it was. So hang on, I wrote down about Kenny Lala. Where is it? He has 2 goals, 1 assist, 79 pass completion. I had no idea who to pick here. He's got 8 clean sheets.
And a very overpowered moments card.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm disappointed you didn't know who Fockett was. He's a gold on FIFA and everything.
I didn't have an inform. Does he have a special card? Right. This is where the FIFA thing comes in.
Oh, Jesus.
Palloy and Glick. But who was it who had Palloy? Was it you who had Palloy, Kieran?
It was my sub, yeah.
So he's got 20. He's played 21 games, 8 clean sheets, and he's 32 years old. So, and to be a mainstay in the team at 32, I think is quite impressive. Obviously, he's a leader in the team. He's a leader in the dressing room. 8 clean sheets is decent as well. Camille Glick has got 1 goal, 1 assist, 88 pass completion, 7 clean sheets for Monaco this season. He's also one of the golden oldies. He's been around for a while. And then I went for Pablo because I'm sick of getting him on team week upgrades, and Thiago Silva. Same reason that Josh went for him. And then go on, what are you saying?
I love the fact that you've said Palloy is a leader in the dressing room, like you've ever been in the nonce dressing room listening to him stir the lads.
Yeah, he has. He's 32. He's he looks like a leader anyway. Like I'd have him.
I believe he's the captain, Palloy.
Oh, sit back down, Kieran.
I've heard rumours he's the quietest in the dressing room. He sits in the corner, doesn't say a word.
Well, I bet he's very polite.
Oh, bloody hell, that's worse than me.
Right, centre mids, I went for Molly and Camavinga. Molly he also has 2 informs on FIFA, but he's also got 6 goals, 3 assists, 85 pass completion. He's only averaging 32 passes a game. So to be only averaging 32 passes a game and to get 85 pass completion is very impressive, I think. And he's in a Montpellier side that's not the best side, so to be shining in that side is quite impressive. Then Camavinga, 17 years old, absolutely incredible. To be a first teamer at 17 years old and to play 25 games is incredible. 88% pass completion. Here we go.
I don't want to go just back. He ain't the captain.
Is he not?
Of Nantes. No, it's too rare.
Josh is giving me false information.
He's the vice captain, but he's not the captain.
He's not technically a captain.
He's still a leader.
He's a leader when the true leader's not there.
Yeah. So, yeah. These Malou and Ikone, we've already talked about those 2. Mbappe, because it's Mbappe and he's incredible. Arguably, like, the 3rd best player in the world. Di Maria, I felt a bit bad not putting Di Maria in, But then I looked at how many games Neymar had played, and then I was like, well, I have to put Neymar in because he's only played 15 games, but he scored 13 goals and he's got 6 assists. So it's I know like nobody likes Neymar, and like just because he's a bit of a knobhead, but he is just such a good footballer. Mbappe, Di Maria, and Slimani, because I always wanted Igalo over Slimani. That's me putting that down to my heart. Yeah,
you wanted neither.
Right.
You wanted neither.
Yeah, I didn't, but you know.
And you put him at left mid, which is an interesting position for Slimani.
I'll he's accomplished at left mid, is Slimani. I'll have you know. And then nobody went for Kasper Dolberg in their team, which I was surprised about. We talked about him earlier. He's got 11 goals this season, 3 assists for 22 years old. And like you said, he kind of burst onto the scene, then lost his hype. But this season has been kind of a steady season for him. He's just been getting on with it. Nobody's really talking about him as much. But he has been really good. Dembele, we've already spoke about him. He's been great this season for Lyon. Ben Yedder's just Ben Yedder. And Osimhen, for 21 years old, he's played 27 games, 13 goals, 5 assists. So it's kind of unfair to not have these players in the starting 11 because I think they do deserve it. But obviously, on FIFA's team of the season, these players will all be on the bench. So they will get the credit that they deserve.
And I think it's the only time it's safe to say we can all be happy that Ben Yedder's in everyone's side. I think that's the only time.
One thing I will give credit is, with Ligue 1, a lot of these players we're mentioning are very young.
Yeah.
So a lot of these people we're putting in, they've got a lot of good young players. I mean, even looking at the back there, mine and the goalkeeper.
Did you know Lala's 28?
I did not.
Yeah, no, Lala is...
The last 2 seasons. Do you know, the thing I thought, do you know Rajkovic? He's mad because he's skinhead, but he's only 25.
25, yeah. I mean, it's the thing as you look at the players, even in your side, Kieran. Obviously, you've got an old back line for the centre backs, but Mausa, he's young. Lise Malou, I think he's in his mid 20s. Camavinga's 17. Mbappe, so young. Dolberg, obviously, rejuvenating his career. It's crazy. There's lots of good young players in Ligue 1.
I know we've been hating on Ligue 1 a lot, but it's a good breeding ground for the young players.
How old's Osimhen?
Osimhen's 21.
21, another youngster. Even Moussa Dembele, he's still young. 22, 23? 22, there you go. It just shows that even though people do slate Ligue 1, saying it's not the most exquisite league in terms of football and there's not enough competition, it is one of the best breeding grounds for youngsters in football, and it has been for years.
I think someone said it earlier, didn't they? Magnan, he's only like 24. And to be honest, like, whatever it is, 12 clean sheets at the age of 24. It's incredible.
I think... Oh, go on.
Oh, no, I'll let you go.
It's good that the league's arguably not to the level of everyone else's, because if this Camavinga was in the Premier League, would he start because the level of competition's higher? Arguably not. So to get more game time at the age of 17, because you're willing to take that risk because the league's not as accomplished, I think that's fair to say.
And I think you look at some of the players that have been produced that even now are still young, top quality players. You've got Ndombele, obviously not getting the best of times at Spurs right now, but no doubt if he does leave, he'll probably get much more game time. You've got Matteo Guendouzi, who's been doing impressively well at Arsenal since he's moved over there. William Saliba, another example of a player who's been stunning in France, and once again he's been another one of the shining lights at Saint Etienne this season, who is bound to go on to do well. You look
at Dortmund.
There you go. Class. Another great example, and I think you look at the young French players. The team that they've got now, in terms of the likes of the Griezmanns, and I'm just trying to think of older players like your Pogba's, not old, but in their mid to late 20s / early 30s.
Should be their prime, sort of.
Exactly. When they shift out, it's scary to think that they've got a lot of players who are going to be ready-made in the future. So you think, Camavinga's only 17. In 4 years' time, he's still only going to be 21. And I feel like it's very similar situation to Rashford in a sense of, if you breed them young, they just become naturally talented and gifted, like Mbappe.
Do you think he'll become like Foden, though?
No, I think...
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, someone who's young, and fairness, he's starting in it. It's about we've had young players who just haven't lived up to the hype. Odegaard is one that we talked. Yeah, he's still playing great in the league, but from when he was signed and stuff from his performances. But then you've had Rashford, who was sort of being United's main man.
I think this kid. I seriously do think this kid's got it.
Yeah, I do as well.
I really do think he will end up at Real Madrid.
It's just the fact that he started, I think, 25 games at 17 years old. Literally, he's your first teamer.
I think you look at a lot of 17 and 18-year-olds in football. There's a very, very small list of players at top clubs that are getting a chance. I mean, even you could probably push it up to like 20-year-olds. So you've got likes of Mbappe and Camavinga and I want to say Haaland, but I can't remember how young Haaland is.
19.
19. There you go. Another great example of a player. There's a very small list of youngsters who are getting a chance. I think Camavinga will definitely make it.
Just double checking on Haaland's age.
I mean, Stu MC's don't ever put Rashford in the same paragraph as Mbappe. I didn't mean it in terms of form. Mbappe is on another class. I just mean in terms of the youngsters that have progressed in a sense of you've got to think. You look at a lot of players at the age of what Rashford and Mbappe were, and they just don't get a chance.
I mean, what happened when PSG played Man United last season?
Oh dear. If you've got to come back for that, Stu MC, you're more than welcome to put it in the comments.
Remember when people were always arguing who's the next Ballon d'Or winner after Ronaldo and Messi retire? Everyone was saying Neymar, maybe Bale. Their time's been and gone.
I think there was only ever 1 year that Neymar could have won the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah. I mean, Mbappe's up there now, and I think he's the next winner. But you've got to remember, he's like 21, and he's already been talking at the level of Ronaldo and Messi in terms of he could have beat them out for that award. Personally, I think.
If he goes to a big league and has a great performance, he'll win it.
You think we've been talking about it?
Van Dijk should have won the Ballon d'Or.
I still stick with my point of I worry for Mbappe, and I've said it before, and I worry that just one injury can do the same to him. What happened to Michael Owen? You can be on the destined for stardom, which he's right at the top of his game right now. He's one of the best players in world football, but all it takes is one single serious injury to come to him, just like that, your career's gone.
Did you know that Mario Götze is only 27 years old or something stupid? Yeah. He's still stupidly young. Not stupidly young, but he's young.
He's a great example of a player that was destined for stardom. That, unfortunately, I mean, it was a very different circumstance for Götze, obviously, because the situation he had with illness that caused his career to kind of go to a hole.
I also don't think moving to Bayern was a good idea because he went from being a big fish in a medium-sized pond to a medium-sized fish in a big pond. In terms of Bayern Munich. So he just couldn't get the game time. Whereas I think Camavinga, where he is now, I don't want him to rush a move away. I really don't.
That is the problem.
You think that if he goes to Madrid, he's not going to start? Whereas at Lille, he's going to start a game in and game out.
Yeah, that's the problem with Odegaard, I think. He moved too quick.
I mean, that's the issue with most youngsters.
Yes, he does, doesn't he?
Well, he has been since Hazard's injury, but I think if Hazard wasn't, he wouldn't have got as much game time. So
we're both right.
Yeah, theoretically speaking.
Well, they've got Rodrigo as well.
I think Valverde, if you talk about youngsters. But I think a lot of youngsters, specifically over these last couple of years, they jump at the chance of a move too quick. And I don't think it's down to them as well. I just think the amount of money that gets chucked at youngsters these days forces clubs to sell them on.
Obviously, this is at a lower... Sorry, go on.
I know, I just also think it's an agent thing as well. Now every player's got an agent. That agent's looking at the agent fee that they're going to get.
If you watch Sunderland Till I Die, it's not obviously a lowest game. If you watch Sunderland Till I Die, Josh Maja did nothing to do with his career, basically. He didn't say, yes, I want to stay in Sunderland. I want to go to Bordeaux. His agent, he went, I'll leave it to my agent.
Yeah, every time he got asked about a move, it was, I'll let my agent deal with it. And then every time they go to a contract, Josh would say, yeah, I'll sign or whatever. We go, don't talk to me, talk to whoever is behind the scenes.
Barry.
Barry. Talk to Barry. What a...
Barry.
Bastard Barry.
It's a shame because it's a market that is really depicted by agents. I mean, as I said, as Kieran said before, Mino Raiola. I mean, the whole Delict thing of, pretty much chucking Delict here, there and everywhere until a big club signed on the dotted line. And you look at other exports, like even you can say Pogba is probably the biggest case of any player currently in football where the agent has had a heavy depiction on where the player goes and what he does. And it's, do you know, it's an unfortunate market, an unfortunate world we live in. And I'm pretty sure most clubs will vouch to say that they can't wait for the day that agents die off and they don't exist, which will never happen because agents will just keep having money poured in. But it's unfortunate. And I mean, as I said, I agree with your point, Kieran. I do think for Camavinga's career, for any youngster, realistically, even like Dolberg, for example, you know, in a couple of years' time, he might have scored, you know, double figures at Nice, still be at the age of, you know, 24, 25 and being touted by, you know, big clubs. It's never worth moving so early.
He moved to Ajax, which I think was actually like a decent. Did he move to Ajax or did he come through the Ajax youth ranks?
He came from the youth ranks.
Ajax youth.
Yeah, I just think again that was too big for him. Like he couldn't start Champions League games, which is what Ajax is at the level as. Whereas now he's in Nice, which is a mid-table, maybe fighting for Europa League sort of thing. That's his level to get better. Whereas if you come in and it's only very, very few players can start at a top team that young and consistently be in the 11 and yeah, and he can be at that level. I just don't think he was.
I disagree with that. I say I think they shipped Dolberg off too quick, just for the pure reason of look where they are now. They're desperate for a striker, and I think you have to look that realistically. Ajax, you either run with Tadic as a forward or you run with Klaas-Jan Huntelaar. I mean, Huntelaar's, you know, he's old. He's getting on. He's like 500 now. He's aging, Huntelaar. I do think maybe what they could have done is kept Dolberg there and had Huntelaar kind of tutor him. And slowly work him up. Maybe not as quick as what they did, you know, just chucking him straight in the team and expecting him to be amazing. But I think Ajax might slightly regret flogging him.
But that's not like a Dolberg thing. I still don't think he's not at the Champions League level at the moment.
I think he will be in a couple of years, 100%.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying though. His move to Nice will aid him in terms of him being at that level to progress and then become. I mean, I don't think he'll get Champions League with Nice. I don't think they're that good, but I think in a couple of years, if he does move, he'll be ready to take that step.
Yeah, you can look in that way. I think he could have done it at Ajax at the same pace if they'd have kind of tutored him a bit more. I think for any young player to be chucked straight into a side and, you know, kind of be forced into being the leading man is very tricky. I mean, obviously, I know I'm talking about Rashford again, but when that period of where Man United had all the injuries and Rashford was the front man, it must have been so much pressure on his shoulders at such a young age to be the leading kid, you know, having to lead the team. And you saw that once the likes of Martial and that had come back, it was a massive weight off of his shoulders where he could kind of just do his own thing. And I feel like maybe that's the same way Dolberg felt at Ajax.
I also think we've got to think about in terms of Rashford. Do you remember when he had that not dying off period, but do you know where he didn't score as many goals? And everyone was like, oh, he's flopped. No, it's just when you start so many games so young, you're going to burn out eventually.
That's the same as Dolberg.
Yeah,
it's probably been a big club.
Yeah, I think it's the same with Dan James. But what do you think, Kieran? Because you have a lot of youngsters at your team.
I just think because it's just the United fan base. They hype up the youngsters too much and they expect too much of them. You know what I mean?
You think a lot of clubs do that?
Obviously,
I think a lot of clubs, they'll see an amazing player come through and they'll go, he's the next big thing.
Arsenal and Man United do it the most, for sure. Arsenal fans and Man United fans do it the most because they just... I think every fan just wants their youngsters to do well, obviously. And it's with Rashford, yeah. Obviously, all the dispute with Jose Mourinho and Marcus Rashford not playing him. And then as soon as Solskjaer came in, Rashford started playing well. The start of this season, Rashford started off well. And then, like Kieran said, he had that little period where he didn't score in a while. But, yeah, it's difficult because as a United fan, I absolutely love Marcus Rashford to pieces. And I have done since he came through. And but he isn't a number 9, as people say. I think he's a winger. But I think it's weird, but I don't think he's a number 9. But he plays better as a number 9, in my opinion. But I don't like him to play number 9. Yeah.
Chris Welch just put your medals on the table, Pogba.
Pogba's won the World Cup. Like, come back when John Henderson's won World Cup.
Go this England, you're England.
Oh dear, that's it. We've started something here.
If it wasn't for Mandzukic, it's coming home. I'm not.
We'll move on. So there is official confirmation for the pub quiz that is going to be coming up. Of course, next week's episode will be the Bundesliga team of the season. There's no need to do the wheel. We know what it is. It's the one that I think most of you guys have been pretty hyped for. It'll be a very extensive episode. I think there's going to be a lot of players that we'll want to talk about. So that is next week's episode of the series. The week after, it won't be a proper episode of the series. It'll be very, very different to what we usually do. You might have seen the one that we did at Christmas if you're watching back then. We did a quiz based on a whole entire year of football. We're going to do something very similar once again. This is going to be a pub quiz. Stu MC, by the way, this is just going off topic. He's put, this guy's talking sense. Rashford always drops off. He's not what people think he is. And as a winger, he doesn't press. Poor development, not his fault. So you're getting back there. You're getting backed on that one.
I'm getting backed with a backhanded compliment, really.
But the Top Corner pub quiz, that'll be on April the 29th. I'll have more details about that as time comes. I'm going to look to use the app Kahoot to be able to run it. There'll be some giveaways and prizes for winners as we do the quiz. So keep your eyes out. I'll put more in another YouTube video and on Twitter as well for that one. And as well as the schedule, this is what things are looking like right now. The Hull City career mode, unfortunately, wasn't up on Monday. Certain reasons to that one. Tuesday... No, we'll leave that one for another day. Wrestling Corner on Tuesday. That video's up. I'll leave a link to the description for that episode. I did not definitely sit on my controller. The career mode's not up. But that's another talk for another day. The Wrestling Corner. What did you talk about on your episode yesterday?
We talked about a great episode of NXT and some SmackDown things. Next week, we'll be talking about the empty arena match happening in AEW, and also some big news has been revealed in WWE, so we'll be talking about that.
Lots of content to come then on the Wrestling Corner. You usually do that about 11 a.m. UK time, don't you? Between 11 and 12.
11, half 11, yeah.
There we go. So I'll tweet out about that as it does go live every time. And of course, I'll leave a link in the description as well to the previous episode of the Wrestling Corner. Of course, you've got the Top Corner podcast on a Wednesday. That's at 5 p.m. UK time. While we're still in this lockdown period and not in the studio. Next week, of course, Bundesliga team this season. The week after will be the pub quiz. Now, usually on a Thursday, it'll be the NFL Corner, but it's a little bit different this week. It will be on Friday. That will be with Will and Kieran. Do you know what you're talking about this week?
Yeah, I do. We're going through, as we were last week, we were going through each of the different divisions. So last week we had the NFC North. This week we're going to switch over to the AFC North. But that will be kind of the end of that for next week at least, because we'll then move on to our final ever mock draft. And then we'll kind of pick up the division thing as we continue after the draft is finished. But that's we kind of have to end it there because that's the biggest thing coming up recently is the draft, and I can't wait for that.
Very exciting times for the NFL Corner. That is on a Thursday. As always, that'll be tweeted out and it'll be on YouTube and that will be live. And on a Friday, of course, there's the Hull City career mode. That won't be this. Well, actually, no, it might be this week, depending on whether I get a controller. As I said, definitely didn't sit on it and break it. But if not, I think there might be a bit of sports day on Friday just to keep you up to date with any of the latest details within sports. And of course, keep your eyes out if you are an NFL fan. The draft is coming on its way on the 23rd and 25th of April. It will be live from midnight UK time on that one. Kieran knows a little bit more than me. Talks through this one.
I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait. It is arguably the biggest nights of the NFL offseason. It's where teams can alter the future, and that sounds like it's been made from some NFL propaganda. It's not. Honestly, it is. We'll see where all the best college prospects end up. We'll do our live reactions from midnight as we do the first round all the way through. So make sure to join us. We can all go through the late night together, get some snacks in, and we'll enjoy a bit of NFL action because the only sport could go in as normal.
And that is the biggest piece of live entertainment that we've got over the next coming weeks. Of course, not really much going on in terms of football. So that's midnight UK time on the 23rd of April, but it's not just on the 23rd of April. It'll be on the 23rd, 24th and 25th. We'll have a couple more details about it as we get further in through this week. So keep your eyes out for that midnight UK time. You don't want to miss it. Kieran and Will be there for that one. And hopefully for the pub quiz, we'll see if we can get everyone involved, including Will and Simon, if they do want to join us. Fingers crossed on that one, if we can get them.
Hopefully so.
But overall, I think that perfectly leads to the end of this episode. I mean, in terms of any content, has anyone got anything to suggest for people to watch throughout this lockdown period? Apart from Tiger King.
Where have
we've
you
already
been?
We've already talked about this.
Make sure you watch the new Friday Night Dinner episodes. They're
Oh,
hilarious.
there you go. Friday Night Dinner. That on Channel 4.
It's on all four if you want to watch on demand.
There you go. That's a piece of content.
ITV, they're doing a show called Quiz. It's a documentary about when the guy cheated to win £1 million and who was a millionaire.
Really
and Michael Sheen does the most amazing Chris Tarrant impression in the world. So yeah, really good that.
That looks really good.
I was going to watch that, but I've already watched a docu on YouTube about it already, so I already know the story. So it's just
it's really good.
It'll never be as good as my impression. I'm not gonna lie. But they're actually, I think they're doing they're actually showing the episode, the actual proper episode of when he cheated on Thursday as well.
I'm guessing that's after the documentary.
Yeah, it's been on every night, hasn't it? Over the last week?
It's Monday, Tuesday, and then I think it's on tonight as well.
There you go. So there's quite a bit of content. And have you got anything to watch, Kieran, apart from Disney Plus?
No, I've not been watching much, to be honest. I'm holding up for the next week until the draft starts.
Oh,
yeah, no, it's big content.
Something sports related. EA are doing a stay and play tournament where some quite big name footballers are playing in tournament, and F1 are doing their virtual Chinese Grand Prix this weekend. So yeah.
And if you tune in on Twitch to the EA thing, we're not sponsored by EA, by the way.
No.
If you'd
like to sponsor us, you could indeed.
Hint, wink, wink.
Twitch, possibly get a Twitch birthday player pack.
See, in talks of sport and the Stay and Play Cup, it's got nothing to do with it, but I'm going to link it anyway. UFC Fight Island is real, but it's not happening anymore.
Yeah, I did hear about that one.
They're rumoured to be coming back, though, even though I said the virus sets a timeline. They want to come back in May, like the Premier League kind of wants to come back to training. And they are creating a super card. And I'm talking...
I saw the image of it.
Yeah. They want to create the best card ever. And it looks like that's what they're doing.
I'll tell you what, if they can get that sorted... Massive events going on, not just across a whole host of sports. Chris has just asked a question for you, Rona. Is Nico Coward Rosberg in the virtual Grand Prix? If he is, I'm not watching it.
Nico Rosberg is not in the virtual Grand Prix. He's too busy making his YouTube thumbnails.
Official confirmation there for you, Chris, so you can watch that.
Actually, they haven't announced the lineup.
Back at work as well.
It could be in it. They haven't announced the lineup, so he may be in it. But
I expect a tweet of Ang, Chris, if he's in the lineup, buddy. And finally, as well, if you're into your darts, there's going to be a very similar stay-at-home tournament in darts over the next couple of weeks as well. That was announced last night. So keep your eyes out, because even though the sports isn't in stadiums and in arenas, there is still plenty of content to come. And of course, as always, if you haven't subscribed to the channels, as always, do subscribe. It'd be greatly appreciated. You've seen the vast amount of content that is to come. We've got live stuff with Kieran. We've got the wrestling with Rowan. We've got the top corner with me. We've got Kieran D. Why are you not subscribed? It'd be greatly appreciated. Six more subs to 600. And of course, Chris Welch, if you are watching this, still try and come and join us for the pub quiz on Wednesday. And if you are watching this and you used to be on our podcast, try and come on the quiz if you possibly can.
And Gareth Ronaldo.
You've got to get Gareth in. Got to get Gareth in there. Right, so that is where we'll end the podcast this week. Thank you very much, Kieran D, and Rowan, for joining me as always. Join us next week thank you very much. Join us for the Bundesliga team of the season next week, and of course the pub quiz the week after. We hope to see you then. See you later. Goodbye.
Check out The Athletic.
Yes.